I almost forgot. If you're listening to this on Tuesday, September 19th, it's International Talk Like a Pirate Day. So, arr, ye mateys, let's talk like a pirate for International Pirate Day. That was me Irish pirate. Welcome to today's show. My name is John. As always, you can subscribe to the show on iTunes or follow the links to social media in the podcast show notes. So please subscribe when you're finished listening. You can also go to snarkymoviereviews.com to read notes, bios, and other random movie thoughts. Today's movie is Blood Money, 1933. This is my first go at an honest-to-goodness pre-code movie. I was telling one of my coworkers about the film, and after a bit, she said, "When do the rabbits come?" I was pretty confused until she told me she thought the title was Blood Bunny. Sounds like that might be a good film anyway. I'm pretty excited to record this podcast for two reasons. One, we all survived Hurricane Irma, and two, I have wanted to do it ever since I was researching episode 42, I Walked with a Zombie 1943, and I heard the Frances Dee quote about a friend admonishing her for playing a prostitute in Blood Money 1933, and she replied, "I played a masochistic, nymphomaniacal kleptomaniac, not a prostitute." I think precode.com summed this movie up pretty well saying, proof that it's pre-code. Women slapped and punched in the face. 16-year-olds coming in charged with criminal assault of an older woman. Our main character thinks it's pretty funny. Woman dressed like a dude. One of the main characters has a severe case of kleptomania and thrill stealing, as well as sexually getting off to criminals. Intimidation and bribery galore. Hemorrhoids pillows used as punchline. Girl gets extremely excited by luau dance. Pagan, almost savage, isn't it? I want a man who's my master, who would shoot the first man who looks at me. You need a good spanking? What I want is a good thrashing. The ending's a little, I was a little impressed with how far out these films really were. In some ways, we've not caught up to the place they were. The mania of Elaine's character is still shocking. There are only a couple of returning actors because this movie is a little early for me. So let's jump right in. Actors.
Right, and I'm a Shakespearean actor.
Frances Dee was cast as Elaine Talbert, girlfriend of Bailey, and some others. Dee was covered in episode 42, I Walked with a Zombie, 1943. Judith Anderson played the role of Ruby Darling, bar owner and girlfriend of Bailey. Ruby is quite a departure compared to everything else I've seen Anderson in. Anderson was covered in episode 91, Laura, 1944. George Bancroft played bail bondsman Bill Bailey. Bancroft was born in 1882 in Philadelphia. After high school, he attended the United States Naval Academy at Annapolis and became a naval officer. Following his time in the Navy, he worked as a theater manager and in minstrel shows. He turned to acting where he performed in silent films and made his debut on Broadway in 1923. Bancroft was a big man and he was good at playing bad guys. He did well in the late 1920s with films like The Pony Express 1925, Underworld 1927, and Thunderbolt 1929. However, he began to grow larger and became harder to work with. He had some good character roles playing a newspaper editor in Mr. Deeds Goes to Town 1936, and Marshal Curly Wilcox in Stagecoach 1939. He mixed it up with Cecil B. DeMille during the filming of Northwest Mounted Police 1940, and by 1942 he decided to retire. He lived 14 more years, dying at the age of 74 in 1956. Chick Chandler played bank robber Drury Darling. Chick was born in Kingston, New York in 1905. With almost 200 movie and television credits, just a few of the movies Chick was in include Alexander's Ragtime Band 1938, Hollywood Cavalcade 1939, Swanee River 1939, The Magnificent Dope 1942, Action in the North Atlantic 1943, Irish Eyes Are Smiling 1944, Seven Doors to Death 1944, Lost Continent 1951, Battle Cry 1956, It's a Mad, 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 Mad World 1963, and The Girl Who Knew Too Much, 1969. His television credits include Soldier of Fortune, 1955 to 56. He had been retired for more than 20 years when he died in 1988. Anthony Garadotte played the bail bonds clerk, a devoted employee of Bailey. Garadotte was born in London in 1856. He is known for 20th Century, 1934, The Hunchback of Notre Dame, 1939, and The Story of Vernon and Irene Castle, 1939. He died in 1939 at the age of 83. George Regas was cast as Charlie. Regas was a Greek stage actor that came to the U.S. to work character parts of different ethnicities. Story.
Let me explain. No, there is too much. Let me sum up.
A man is packing to leave town. His girlfriend is giving him a hard time. Two policemen come in with a key. They pull the jewels out of the light globe. When he realizes he has been set up, he punches the woman in the face with no concern for the two detectives. He tells her to call Bill Bailey.
What are you bellyaching about? You got more out of me than any other woman has.
Yeah, you've been swell to me. You buy all my clothes from shoplifters, and I can't wear my fur as a jury on the streets because the people you stolen from might see me and throw me in jail.
Where you going, Red? No place? Now, Flannelmouth, get up and get Bill Bailey on the phone.
Next, a man wakes a judge in the middle of the night and tells him Bill Bailey wants him to sign a blanket bond. Then a butcher receives an order of 150 turkeys for Thanksgiving to be distributed to judges, lawyers, and police. Finally, at the boxing matches, Bill Bailey, George Bancroft, is losing every bet he makes, and it's clear he's a bail bondsman. A woman comes in with her son to the bail bond shop. Bailey is in the pool hall but comes back to his office. Bailey finds out that the boy is 16 and charged with criminal assault on a 38-year-old woman.
What are you charged with?
Criminal assault.
How old is the girl?
It's not a girl. It's a woman about 38.
How old are you?
16.
16. Well, you haven't got a thing to worry about, Sonny. Not a thing. Oh, by the way, Mother, do you own your own home?
When reviewing on the interwebs for this movie, I noticed a lot of people were critical of the Bailey character for laughing at the charges. Having worked as a bail bondsman in an earlier incarnation, I know he was smiling because the 16-year-old is going to keep getting into trouble until Bailey gets the old woman's house. Later, Bailey goes to a speakeasy/brothel that is run by his girlfriend, Ruby Darling, Judith Anderson. A singer, Blossom Seeley, is belting it out. Bailey goes to the bar and there's a woman wearing a tuxedo, a monocle, and a hat. When Bailey offers her a cigar, she smells it and calls him a big sissy.
Have a cigar.
You big sissy.
Bailey goes upstairs and talks with a maid, Jessica, Teresa Harris. When Bailey goes into Ruby's room, her brother, Drury Darling, Chick Chandler, is there, having just been released from prison on a bank robbery charge. Drury leaves for his date with the monocle woman. Ruby talks about how she has taken care of Bailey, even though he has strayed a bit. Ruby worries about her brother. Back at the bail bond office, the clerk, Anthony Garadotte, brings in a ring that a woman wants to use as bond for a grand theft rap. Bailey can tell that the ring is worth more than the bond, so he goes out to talk to the woman. The lovely young woman introduces herself as Jane Smith, Frances Dee, a.k.a. Elaine Talbert. Bailey listens to her call and finds out that she is from a well-to-do family that is in the pineapple business. Bailey offers Miss Smith a ride home. She accepts after she finds out it's a convertible. When Bailey turns his back, she steals a fancy lighter off his desk. In the car, Miss Smith asks to be taken to a drive-in restaurant. While there, she uses Bailey's lighter, engraved as being from boxer Jack Dempsey. She says, "So what?" and smiles. Later, Bailey goes by the store to get the charges dropped. The store manager is a very young Edward Van Sloan. I almost didn't recognize him without the large Dracula glasses. Bailey has the charges dropped by the insurance company by simply making a call. When the manager stands, there's a hemorrhoid pillow on the chair and Bailey laughs in his face. Mr. Talbert is throwing a Hawaiian luau. Bailey attends with Elaine, and she gets sexually excited watching the female dancers, saying, "Pagan, almost savage, isn't it?"
Pagan. Almost savage, isn't it?
She goes on to say she needs a master to give her a good thrashing, and she would follow him around like a dog on a leash. Kinky. Elaine introduces Bailey to her father, who is a staunch Republican, while Bailey supports the Democrat. Elaine goes to dance as the men talk more politics, and Bailey ends the conversation with,
"The only difference between a liberal and a conservative man is that the liberal recognizes the existence of vice and controls it, while a conservative just turns his back and pretends that it doesn't exist."
Elaine's father is shocked when he finds Bailey is a bail bondsman. The father tells Bailey that Elaine has an underworld mania. Bailey gives her father a plan to open a charge account at all the stores where Elaine steals. This puts Bailey in good with the dad. Bailey comes to see Ruby, and she knows that he's been running around with Elaine. Ruby warns him off, but Bailey decides to go with Elaine.
Ruby, I'll admit this girl's got me down. She's different. Unusual. I don't want to lie to you or go behind your back. That's why I'm telling you. But nobody could ever take your place with me. You know that. Why, if you were dying and needed blood for a transfusion, I'd be the first one to give it.
But the only way we can get together is to have a blood transfusion,
Ruby is not happy, but she accepts it. He asks her to be friends. Ah, the kiss of death. When Bailey leaves, Ruby sadly asks the maid to have her room filled with flowers. Sometime later, a headline reads that a bank has been robbed by a lone gunman. Bailey shows back up at Ruby's place and asks about Drury. Drury has been twice convicted, and Bailey suggests that he surrender and then go out on bail. If it looks like he's going to be convicted, Bailey will let him skip, as long as he is paid. Bailey and Ruby go to see Drury. There are 2 cops following them. They play drunk, but Bailey sees through it. At Drury's place, Bailey bribes and threatens the taxi driver to not say where they were dropped. In a very nice trick, Drury gives him the number of the apartment across the hall. Bailey gets the bail set at $50,000 for a $500,000 robbery. Drury says most of the loot is registered bonds and can't be sold.
And my advice is to give yourself up. I'll go right over and see how much bail they want. Okay. But they've got to make it reasonable, in case I have to jump it. Well, how about $50,000 for a $500,000 robbery? Oh, okay. But just between you and me, I'll be lucky to break even. Most of those bonds are registered.
Bailey and Elaine go to the dog races. She says she likes to be around Bailey because he introduces her to another world. Bailey has bought Elaine a greyhound, but it comes in way behind the pack.
And in a row. Good. Dog of war coming up fast on the outside. On goes good. Holding it hard. And with a lock on last place hit. Santa's little helper. Third. And it's going by a country mile. And second to 2x2. Followed by Dog of War.
I don't want to leave till our dog finishes. Forget it. Let's go.
Drury is there with a couple of women. One of them is played by Lucille Ball. Elaine is doing the elevator eyes on Drury, and when she finds out he's a bank robber, she can't contain herself. She is wide-eyed and crazy-looking when she talks about bank robbery. Elaine invites Drury to get interested in her.
I got your message.
I didn't send any message.
You didn't? Well, goodbye.
Where are you going?
Out and chase that rabbit.
A lovely sense of humor.
What did Bill tell you about me?
Amazing things.
Bill's a great admirer of mine.
Must we talk about Mr. Bailey?
No. Let's talk about me.
All right. Let's talk about you. How does it feel to rob a bank?
At the golf course, Bailey and Drury are calling Elaine from adjacent phones. Elaine agrees to break her date with Bailey and go with Drury. Bailey meets the DA on the course, and he says with the new evidence he has, he is planning on doubling the bail. Bailey goes to see Drury, and he almost catches Drury and Elaine coming in from a date. On Bailey's advice, Drury decides to skip out of his bail. Drury says he will send $50,000 in gold bonds over to cover his debt. Bailey tells him to head for Dallas. In the morning, Drury and Elaine are getting ready to escape on 2 separate routes. He gives her the $50,000 in gold bonds for Bailey and tells her to destroy the $300,000 worth of registered bonds. She drops a package at Bailey's office and the clerk takes it. Bailey thinks he has been double-crossed by Drury because Elaine has intentionally given him the wrong bonds. Bailey is getting ready to turn Drury in, and Ruby keeps saying he's a square guy. To hurt Bailey, Ruby tells him that Drury and Elaine are a couple. Ruby threatens to break him and calls him a copper.
Don't talk that way, Bill. You know my brother wouldn't cheat you out of a cent. He isn't built that way. If you bring him back, you're making a big mistake.
I'm always making mistakes, and they're always big ones.
Which hurts you the most? Losing Elaine or losing the $50,000?
What do you mean?
That's what I said.
Oh. So he's telling everybody how he made a chump of me, is he? Well, nobody in this town ever made a chump out of Bill Bailey.
Make you chump out of yourself. Right now, Bill.
Yeah? Well, I'm bringing the little rat back.
Well, I expected that of you. Remember, the thieves made you, and the thieves can break you, you copper.
She calls him a bloodsucker and he throws her out. Drury gets arrested in Dallas and Ruby calls in all the other gangsters in town. She said Bailey did it for a woman and that he wouldn't take her money. Charlie, George Regis, asked if he should have Bailey killed. Ruby has a better plan. She wants to break him.
He turned my brother in over a girl. My brother's a two-time loser. And this time he'll go up for life. Fellas, you all know the kid. I don't have to tell you how regular he is. When he left, he gave Bill $50,000 in gold securities. Bill came to me and pretended they were worthless. I offered to make good Drury's bail, and Bill refused. So figure it out for yourself.
What do you want me to do, Ruby? Have him killed?
No. Just break him.
The gangsters get all of the criminals that are bonded out by Bailey to skip town. That means Bailey will have to pay the full bond amount, not just the 10% a bondsman gets. Charlie has some men blow Bailey's safe. When the police get there, they find the $300,000 in registered bonds. The district attorney knows it was a setup, but indicts Bailey to make the case stronger against Drury. Bailey goes to see a newspaper editor. All of the people Bailey has helped have turned their back on him until he joins the police and starts to go to work against the gangsters. This is costing all of the gangsters money. Ruby wants to call the whole thing off, but Charlie says it has gone too far. Ruby backs out of the plot. A gunman that failed to get a shot at Bailey comes in and they wait for Ruby to leave. One of Charlie's men comes up with the idea of an exploding 8-ball. They make the first one and throw it out the window. It works. Elaine goes to the jail to visit Drury and proclaims her love. She says she has a gun in her pocket and she tells him that she gave Bailey the wrong bonds. Drury stands up and slaps her across the divider wall.
I've got a gun in my pocketbook. And I've hidden those bonds you told me to give Bailey. I have plenty of money.
You mean you didn't give those bonds to Bailey?
No, I kept them for you. I knew Dad would cut me off, and you can't live without money.
Why, you dirty little bag. Get out of my sight.
He starts raving that he has to talk to his sister, but the cops drag him to solitary confinement. Bailey, under police escort, goes to the pool hall. Back at his cell, Drury uses matches to smoke the back of a plate and send a message out to Ruby. Ruby gets the message as Bailey plays pool with some cops. She gets the message to Charlie, but he says it's too late. After a bit, Charlie's men switch the 8-ball for the exploding one. Most of the men in the pool hall have cleared out. Ruby races across town, paying her driver to break the law. As the pool balls are sunk in order, the cab races across the town. The 8-ball is up next when Ruby's cab crashes right in front of the pool hall. Bailey goes to her and takes her inside. She tells him about the exploding pool ball.
What table were you playing at?
Right over here. Here's where we were playing.
There's enough junk in that to blow you to pieces.
Are you kidding?
He throws it out the window and it blows up. What kind of town is this? Elaine shows up in time to see Bailey and Ruby kissing. About this time, a crying woman comes out of another building. Elaine asks what happened, and the woman says she went upstairs for a modeling job, and the man attacked and tried to rape her. He also bruised and punched her before she escaped. Elaine is wide-eyed with excitement.
Just had the most horrible experience I ever had in my life.
What happened?
I went upstairs to answer this ad. A man named Johnson told me he wanted a model to pose for his art studies. I had to fight my way out of the office. I never had anything so horrible happen to me in all my life.
My arm. It's froze black and blue. He struck me. Look at my jaw. Would you say his name was? Johnson. Give me that ad.
She gets the name and address from the woman and heads up to be abused. Bailey and Ruby reconcile, and she says she will keep bailing him out. He tells her to remember that behind each Barnum there is a Bailey. The movie fades to black. World famous short summary: you got to dance with them that brung you. I hope you enjoyed today's show. You can find the links to social media in the show notes. Remember, this show is completely free and independent. All that I ask is that you jump over to iTunes and give me a review. It really helps the show get found. Beware the Moors.